do you think, Doc? Should I be bedding my calves over this cold weather?
Well, I think that's a marvelous idea, Generic Rancher Ron, because let's face it, who wouldn't want to be snuggled up in a warm blankie on a cold winter's day? But yes, Generic Rancher Ron, bedding your calves in cold weather is a very good idea. To give an example, South Dakota State University did a study in 2019 that compared cattle that were bedded versus the ones that weren't bedded. Those that were bedded finished faster and had a better rate of gain than the ones that didn't get any bedding in the cold winter months. Now consider that these cattle were all on concrete. If you don't have concrete and rather have a mud pen that the cattle are in, think of how much greater the difference would be. So when you're looking at bedding calves, is it something you should do all the time? Something that you should only do before cold weather? There's a lot of things to think about with that. Obviously, there's the work of bedding the calves, as well as the fact that it costs money to use that bedding. So to get a better idea of what's the best timing, we can turn back to this same study. Now, the cattle in the first half of the study were being bedded in the very tough winter that we saw in 2019 during February and on forward. Now, they followed this study up in the fall of 2019, where calves that were just arriving were bedded. Now, the fall of 2019 actually wasn't nearly as rough as the spring of 2019 was. So they didn't see as big of a difference in the rate of gain in those calves versus the ones that were bedded there in the more difficult weather conditions that we saw in the winter and spring of 2019. So this would tell us that there is a diminishing return as the better the weather gets. So maybe the best way to address this question is, when in doubt, put bedding out. Not only does that rhyme, but it's a simple way to answer that question. If you look out the window and it's miserable and cold, well, the cattle are probably going to appreciate the bedding. Now, if you'd like more intricate details about bedding or have any other questions, feel free to reach out to the folks at Sioux Nation Ag Center. We're here to help you through all the situations in all the seasons so you can feed that bottom line. Now, folks, you've probably noticed that my hat has changed. That's because I'm going to shamelessly plug another Sioux Nation offering, which is our Sioux Nation podcast. This podcast covers a whole range of topics on all the different species which Sioux Nation Ag Center serves, which, quite frankly, is about every species that you can eat, unless you're in Louisiana. But for those of us here in the upper Midwest, if you have poultry, if you have dairy, if you have beef, if you have hogs, the Sioux Nation podcast covers all of these different species. Feel free to check us out on iTunes, Spotify, or we'll have links on Facebook, or you can even find it on our webpage. Thanks for watching.